Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Jonas Roach, and I am the news editor here at the Architects newspaper. I'd like to welcome you all to the Demystifying Security Solutions in Architecture, Building and Design Projects live webinar, a CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper. This webinar is sponsored by Avery Dennison. This program is registered with the AIA CES for continuing professional education. Questions related to specific materials, methods, and services will be addressed at the conclusion of this presentation. This webinar is recorded and can be easily replayed when re-registered on the same webinar registration page. Please allow 7 business days to process Certificate of Participation and AIA credit reporting for this presentation. We encourage you to ask questions using the Zoom Q&A button found at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I'd like to introduce you to today's presenters, Doug Phelps, Randy Garcia, and Lisa Winkler. Doug has a 30-year career in the dynamic and ever-evolving building materials and construction industry. His extensive experience encompasses a wide range of building products, from essential commodities to complex engineered solutions. Throughout his career, he has cultivated strong and enduring relationships with key stakeholders across the industry, including architects, designers, engineers, contractors, and distributors. His deep understanding of their unique needs and challenges has enabled him to consistently deliver tailored solutions and exceptional service, solidifying his reputation as a trusted and respected leader in the field. Randy enjoys a window film career that has stretched over 30 years. Various assignments have led to continued advancement in the window films business and include selling and installing for consumers, assisting with technical sales, product management, technical assistance, product and installation training, marketing, and relationship development to channel partners and dealers. Randy has also worked with architects, interior designers, general contractors, channel partners, and dealers to help build and move window film through the project pipeline. Randy began working for CPF Films in 1995, Haneda Coatings in 2014 as the East Coast USA window film sales manager, and became the regional technical window film specialist under Avery Dennison after their acquisition of Haneda Coatings in January 2018. Lisa Winkler is the president of Colorand LLC, a consulting company working in the light and energy fields. Ms. Winkler has employed for over 35 years in the window film industry. Lisa retired in 2021 as the Director, Global Product Management and Industry Affairs for the Performance Films business of Eastman Chemical. She's speaking today on behalf of the International Window Film Association. Remember to please leave your questions for the speakers in the Q&A window. Without further ado, Doug Phelps.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Dan. And good day to everyone, and welcome to Demystifying Security Solutions in Architecture, Building, and Design Projects. My name is Doug Phelps, Business Development Manager here at Avery Dennison. And before we get started, just a few housekeeping slides for your reference. Please note that Avery Dennison is a registered provider with AIA Continuing Education Systems. AIA members will receive credit and earn credit upon completion of the program, and that credit will be reported to the AIA for your transcript and CES records. If you're not an AIA member, a certificate of completion is available upon request. So today we're going to talk about several items, but mostly we're focused around safety glass solutions. And our goal for the next hour is fourfold. First, we'll really discuss some of the trends and regulations that are shaping the demand for window films and window security in the industry. I'm guessing these trends and regulations you're already familiar with, or at least have heard about. Next, we'll do an overview of options for making windows more secure, including both OEM and retrofit solutions, but we're really focused today on the retrofit portion of that. And then we'll do an overview of window film testing, which is very important, including inspection, third-party validation, things like that. I'll have our technical expert, Randy, step in to lead that part of the presentation. And then finally, we'll talk about the specification process and any additional design considerations and key takeaways when working with security films. And as time allows, we'll try to reserve some time at the end of our presentation for questions. So let's dive in. Trends and regulations. So to understand what's driving interest in and demand for window security solutions, you need to look and understand that kind of what the situation is today, right, in the world. And if you scroll through your news feed, you'll likely see a lot of headlines related to property damage and, unfortunately, physical harm. And so you may read about extreme weather conditions like the recent fires in Southern California and heavy storms in the Southeast. Or violence and property damage at schools, places of worship, and other facilities, or political instability and protests that result in property damage, or everyday crime that affects both commercial and residential property. Communities and citizens are calling out for something to be done. And one of the ways elected officials are responding is by incentivizing more robust and resilient structures that can withstand some of these threats. And that includes state level mandates and grants, especially for the installation of security window solutions in schools. These are just a few examples of recent legislation in Texas, Missouri, New Hampshire. Really, according to the IWFA and reported sources, approximately 20 states have legislation and grant funding that encourage the use of safety and security glass solutions, really vulnerable in certain school districts across the country. And again, here are a few additional examples showing the range of funding that states have initiated to support the addition of safety solutions for schools. You'll see all of them include the use of security films as an allowable expense for grant funding. In addition, you'll see that the use of bulletproof film or entry resistant film, of which we'll discuss in more detail ahead. Be sure to check the statewide legislation to ensure you know what is happening in the states where you do business and areas where you have projects that you're designing. So before we move into an overview of the window film solutions, I want to address the current legislation that's really pushing safety and security solutions for schools, and specifically noting the need for bullet-resistant films within those regulations. It's really important to understand that the product you're specifying, what it can and can't do. So you want to be familiar with those solutions and what your clients require. The IWFA is the leading organization in the United States, and they've taken a pretty strong stand on window films and specifically security film and their effectiveness with ballistic threats such as gunfire impact. Lisa, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you. The IWFA, International Window Film Association, has done a lot of work and promotion of making sure people are using language correctly. So the International Window Film Association is not aware of any post-applied film that when installed on standard glass that is found in most public buildings will render that composite bullet resistant. And certainly bulletproof is a term that no one should be using. Because bulletproof is totally dependent on what the rounds are, what kind of ammunition, the standoff distance, the glass. Film can help slow down someone getting in, and we'll talk about that in a little later, make it harder to get through the glass, but it is not in any way bullet resistance. If you need to see this statement from IWFA, it is available on IWFA.com.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll be covering several of Lisa's points in more detail throughout the rest of the presentation. So let's move on to current Windows security solutions. So what are the options available? One option is glass for doors and windows engineered by the OEM for safety and security. Modern safety glass can incorporate protective features such as resistance to impact, intrusion, and ballistic attacks. Typically, this glass is engineered with multiple layers of laminated materials, often combining glass with things like polycarbonate or other polymers that really absorb and disperse the energy from impacts. This type of glass is much costlier than standard architectural glass. It tends to be heavier and thicker, and which may reduce optical clarity. And it's likely not a realistic option for retrofit. If you're looking for a bulletproof option, know that there is true bulletproof glass that does exist, but this glass is very expensive. If you're looking for a broader security solution, things like impact, shard protection, among several other needs, there are more cost-effective options. Well, that takes us to the retrofit option, being a window film. Engineered for application to existing glass, these cost-effective films feature a scratch-resistant hard coat that covers multiple layers of laminate. The laminate layering provides the film's protective features and can range in thickness from just 4 millimeters all the way to 20 millimeters. The entire construction is adhered to the substrate glass with a pressure-sensitive adhesive. Films typically are transparent, but some films have colors or shading intended to provide additional benefits such as privacy or solar protection. And these films often protect against a variety of threats, which we'll review in a moment. And they're designed for professional installation by trained installers, which we'll also dive into in a bit. Now let's look in greater depth at what window films can do. And for that, I'll turn it over back to Lisa.
Thanks, Doug. We have traditionally recognized 7 different benefit areas or functional features for security and safety window films, and I will briefly cover each of those. The first one on the list is blast, be this either some kind of terrorist activity blast or chemical reaction blast. Film can be very effective when put on the surface to protect people from flying glass. In a blast event, many of the injuries are from flying glass, especially if you're talking about a terrorist situation where people are sitting in their offices, they're close to the glass. As that glass flies in, many of the injuries in a blast come from flying glass. Secondly on this list is forced entry. So this is, again, trying to keep someone out of a building that you don't want in the building. And again, these are thicker films than you would find in a standard solar film. They will vary anywhere from 100 microns, which is 4 mils, up to maybe 14 or 15 mils. The third on this list is safety. So safety is perhaps someone specified a tempered glass, and geez, when they ordered it, it showed up on the job site and it's annealed. Film can be used in a retrofit situation to upgrade that glass. Your dealer should know how to do that, how to mark the glass, and it'll keep you on schedule on a building build. Again, it's designed for someone running into the glass and getting cut. The fourth on this list is earthquake, seismic. In a seismic event, you will often get what's called racking, where the building will move to side, which will make the top of the window perhaps move in the opposite direction of the bottom of the window. In this case, you will crack the corners. Glass can either come in and then kind of be moved around during an earthquake event, or it can fall out of a large story building and kind of rain out of the building. For many of these applications I'm talking about, you should also specify an attachment system The attachment system may be put on differently or in different locations, depending upon what benefit you're trying to achieve. But for many of these, we certainly recommend having an attachment system that is recommended by the manufacturer. The fifth on the list is windstorm. So this is keeping glass in place when you get a pressure wave coming through, positive and negative, as the windows pulse in a windstorm. To some extent, a lot of window films will withstand small missile impacts. I would not say that you would want to replace window film in a Category 5 type storm. That's not what it's designed to withstand, a 2x4 flying at the window, but it does have many uses, and again, can be used to keep glass from flying into the building. The second one to the last here is defacement, which is really a different kind of category. This is film that may not be as thick as some of the others. It may be layered. It's designed so that there is a sacrificial layer on the glass to protect from graffiti. So either acid etching or scribing. It is much faster and much easier to come out and peel off a layer of film or replace it than it is to replace all the glass, and certainly less expensive. The last on the list is spontaneous failure. This does not happen as often as it used to, generally caused by a nickel sulfide contamination in the glass itself. And under heat load and thermal stress, the glass will crack. Again, film is not used to keep it from cracking. The film is designed to hold the glass in place so you can get to the building and get it repaired. And again, in a high-rise building, it's important to have an attachment system. What you're trying to do is keep the glass from falling out of the building. So many uses for film that have been used for a number of years. And I'm sure that any of the manufacturers, especially Avery Dennison, would be happy to explain to you which film is best for your application that you're trying to solve.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So why do you choose a safety and security window film, or why would you choose one? There are a number of benefits. We've seen types of threats these films can protect against, and while OEM glass can be engineered for many of these same threats, films are available at an exceptionally lower cost. Window films are a very cost-effective way to get the security benefits that you need, and hopefully within budget. Films are also the most realistic option for retrofitting. An existing building, very easy to do. So imagine the cost, time, and resources required to replace perhaps a dozen windows and doors in a school, for example. Films can be properly installed in existing glass much more quickly with minimal disruption to the building's operations, and again, at a much lower cost. And the diversity of window film technology means that they can be specified to provide additional benefits. Besides shatter resistance, window films can provide additional functionality such as anti-graffiti technology. And films are typically clear to help maintain the building aesthetics, but they're also available in a wide range of colors and shades. They can be specified to provide solar and UV protection, which can really help manage a building's utility costs and improve sustainability. And the use of shaded films can provide a privacy benefit as well. Security window film can be installed on any window or door glass, even on glass incorporated into a feature such as a second-story balcony. And films can be installed either on the interior or exterior of the glass. And here we see just a couple of examples of applications on both the ground level and upper level of a commercial building. Next, let's discuss some things you should know about buying and installing window film. Now, you may think that as an architect, you don't have to be involved in any of this, and perhaps in many cases you won't and don't. However, we believe it's important to understand the basics of these processes, and this can really help understand and make more informed decisions with your clients and stakeholders. So Randy is one of our technical experts. Can you really speak to the importance of installation in consideration for security window films? You're on mute, Randy.
Sorry about that. Yes, thanks, Doug. Basically, it comes down to performing your due diligence. And by that, I mean not only for yourselves, but also whoever's going to be doing the installation for you. As an example, it's going to be very important to understand two things before you even enter into the project: what it is you want to accomplish and what kind of a glazing system you currently have. Because as you've seen earlier, there's different scenarios that could be played out with different films. And so it's going to be very important to make sure we understand why you want to use it, what the expectation is, and then what kind of a glazing system you have, because that will impact the type of film that we might use. And it's just crucial when we're considering window film. It's definitely not a DIY job for a non-professional. It's not a job for a generalist film handler who handles other types of architectural films, like decorative films or maybe automotive films, things like that. Simply put, not every installer has experience with safety and security film, and there are potential warranty and liability implications for using one, or an installer, I should say, who is not a specialist.
All good points, Randy. Lisa, as we come back to the bulletproof question, there's a lot obviously in the market, very, very hot topic. What should we be watching out for regarding these claims?
So first off, you should be watching out for anybody using that phrase. Bulletproof is not a phrase that is used by any of the manufacturers of true ballistic glass even. They will always call it bullet resistant. Again, every type of product like this has a specification, and you should always look for ballistic testing and compare that to what your expected risk is. Again, we are not aware of standard safety and security films that have bullet resistant capabilities when you apply it to the kind of 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch glass that you would see standard in a building. You can see it used in places where perhaps there's already laminate glass. They're using it as a spall shield. You may have thicker glass that when used in some kind of very thick film, you'll get some kind of ballistic protection. But again, you want to be looking to see that people who are selling these products have testing, and I know Randy's going to talk about this later, recognized testing for these kinds of applications.
Thanks, Lisa. And finally, use due diligence when it comes to selecting a supplier. You generally have two options for buying films, either through somebody that actually private labels the product or directly from the manufacturer. So you know which one is which. Working with the manufacturer like Avery Dennison provides some important advantages. Namely, you can be rest assured that having access to proper documentation and regarding third-party testing and validation of the product and its performance by third parties such as ASTM. Manufacturer also typically provides access to a network of recommended installers who mainly focus on safety and security window films. And as Randy just noted, having trained professionals actually do the installation and handle that work that is very crucial to a successful outcome. And finally, a manufacturer tends to have a more robust technical support capabilities, including in-person assistance through the design, specification, and the installation stages of a project. So now let's turn over to testing, inspection, and third-party validation of films. Randy, can you give a quick overview of some things our audience should know?
Of course. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So when we're talking about installation consideration, or just how these films are installed can have a lasting impact on their performance, I want to start off by saying the most typical installation that you will see is what we call a daylight installation. In other words, it's only on the surface of the glass that you can physically see and touch when you walk up to the window. That would be the most typical situation. An installer of safety films or safety window films should be trained by the manufacturer on proper installation techniques. And a properly trained installer will be aware that safety films tend to be thicker and a bit more challenging to handle and trim and squeegee. And because they are thicker, it's very important to have that technique of squeegeeing down so that they remove all the water that is used during the installation process. The glass surface must be cleaned to a very high tolerance so we can avoid compromising the bond. Many safety films require edging with a sealant to ensure that the film is effectively attached to the window frame and the filmed glass. That's why I was saying about a daylight installation of film. It's applied to the surface we can touch. The edging will allow us to attach that filmed glass to the frame. Many films must also be installed according to the manufacturer's guidelines. And of course, this enables the installation to align with various certification standards, which we'll cover a little bit later. And it requires having the film inspected throughout the process. So it's not like you have one person going up there and quickly cleaning the glass and then somebody else coming up and installing it and that kind of thing. It has to be inspected all the way through those processes after each process to ensure the best outcome at the end of the project. And finally, because these films have a thicker adhesive layer, they do require a bit of time to cure. And the installer must take care not to disturb it during that period and should educate the building owner or the project manager of this requirement. So what is the most effective way to know what you are buying is legitimate? All the window film manufacturers out there will have their products tested. They're going to have them tested by independent test agencies to make sure that it meets a specific test standard. As an example, one of the interior test standards that most window films that get installed on the interior side of a window go through is ASTM E84 for burn resistance or the burn test. And so did the manufacturer in fact have that tested? Is there a certificate available to take a look at it? This testing should be conducted by an independent third party at accredited test facilities. And the test specimens should closely match the requirements needed when being applied to the existing building surfaces. And that's one of the reasons why it's very important to know what kind of glass we're working with at the very beginning of the project. Be wary of any supplier who refuses or is reluctant to supply testing documentation, and be very aware of any claims for bulletproof films, as Lisa pointed out earlier, and the IWFA has a strong stance on. You'll also find the certification associated with each product on the spec database, such as RCAT, Suites, Master Spec, and the others that you are familiar with for reviewing products. I also want to briefly mention some key tests conducted by manufacturers. For now, we'll just focus on the top 4 on this list, as those are the ones that customers are typically looking for. First is ANSI Z9 7.1, which is for human impact to decrease the ability of somebody to get injured if glass breaks. And that testing is available. And as Lisa mentioned earlier, if annealed glass happens to get installed where tempered glass is required, we can upgrade that glass to meet the impact standards. Second one is that we're hearing a lot about right now is the ASTM F3561, which simulates an active shooter situation where the glass is weakened with repetitive shots followed by a mechanically driven impact to simulate forced entry. And one thing I'd like to point out here is we do see this come up in specifications. However, it's important for you to know that this ASTM standard F3561 currently is only designed for entire window systems. It is currently not a retrofit test standard. The ASTM has a working group that is currently working through developing a retrofit standard that window films and anybody else that has a retrofit solution to existing windows could test to demonstrate the effectiveness. And Lisa, by the way, is a part of that ASTM working group, and she works on that on a regular basis. And hopefully sooner than later, we can come to some resolution on that. But currently, it is only designed for a complete system. And that's important for you to note, especially when somebody's calling that's what they want. Next is a GSA standard to evaluate window system and other materials under simulated bomb blast conditions. We can use a shock tube. You can use live arena to generate specific pressure and impulse profiles that mimic the effects of an explosion on glazing. The test method is designed to evaluate the hazard rating of glazing systems of flying glass and debris. You may hear condition level 1, condition level 1, the glass doesn't break. Condition level 2, it breaks, but it's held in the frame. Condition level 3, it breaks, but only comes so far into the room on the floor. Condition level, that's 3A. Condition level 3B, it can impact the back wall up a certain amount. Condition level 4 is a little bit worse than that, and condition level 5 is catastrophic, where you'll have glass come all the way back and impact a wall 10 feet away from where the window is. And finally, we have UL 972, which evaluates a material's resistance to being breached by forceful impact, simulating burglary attempts. You should look for these tests when conducting your database research. There are other impact tests. There are other burglary resistant testing standards as well. These aren't the only ones. But if you don't see anything that reflects what you're trying to accomplish with your customer, please ask. And finally, a quick word on visual inspection. The International Window Film Association actually has an architectural visual inspection guideline for applied window films. And it may be that you need to verify that the work aligns with project specs and industry standards. And since the IWFA does have such a document, you can incorporate it into your specifications. And these guidelines inform reasonable expectations once a window film has been installed as a retrofit. As you can imagine, somebody may not have looked at their windows very closely in decades. You'll see dirt, debris in residential homes. You'll see smoke, stains from tobacco use and all that kind of thing. And they didn't notice any of that, but then you went and installed film and you cleaned the glass, and all of a sudden, you know, they're up there with a magnifying glass taking a look at things, and they'll see things that they didn't notice before, even though their windows were completely dirty. So these standards will give a very good guideline on what to expect and how to view the window films once they've been installed.
Thanks, Randy. As we are nearing the end of our course today, we wanted to talk briefly about product specifications. So looking at product specification process and some of the additional design considerations. So it's best to look at products with specifications that are available in the specifications platforms. You know that they're going to be pretty consistent with the industry. And you want to look for 3-part specs with product listings in the databases. You can always feel free to reach out to Avery Dennison for further information. So things like master spec, spec link, the suites database, and RCAP. So we're just about ready to wrap up our presentation for today, but let's briefly review what we've covered. So let's look at some key takeaways. So in summary, a quick review of our key points and takeaways for everyone on the line. First, there's a growing interest in Windows security solutions motivated by some of the things happening in our world today. And we're seeing states incentivize school districts to invest in some of these solutions. Next, while OEM safety glass is an option, window safety and security films are ideal for cost-effective retrofits. They can also offer additional benefits such as privacy, solar protection, or enhanced building aesthetics. And you have to use due diligence when purchasing film and hiring an installer. Working directly with a window film manufacturer is likely going to be the best route possible for the best results. You want to make sure that something is designed, specified, and installed according to the intent of the designer. And lastly, manufacturers and installers should follow established protocols when testing, validation, and inspection is required. So they ought to be able to provide any type of documentation related to claims that those particular films make or related to specifically to their testing. So be wary of any supplier that cannot provide this information to you. So finally, I want to take the opportunity to say a few things about Avery Dennison. We're a leading manufacturer and supplier of pressure-sensitive adhesive products, and that does include window films and a wide variety of vinyl solutions for our markets, including architectural, automotive, signage, and transportation. So our architectural portfolio of safety films is outlined here. Offer window film applied solutions for interior safety, exterior safety, and surface protection, as well as solar control films and universal safety and surface protection for things like anti-graffiti. Based on the specification requirements and needs, these films can really help improve the safety, comfort, and aesthetics, and even support sustainability initiatives that you might be looking for. Okay, well, that's going to do it for that portion, the AIA portion. I think we'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Dan, do you have some questions that are in the queue?
Absolutely. We have a few very good ones. Thank you so much. Let's kick things off with a question from Joseph. Can security films be used on existing glazing as a means to improve impact by debris from a hurricane?
Lisa, you want to take that one, or Randy?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So window films are designed exactly to do that, to minimize flying glass in many different events. And again, probably important that you have an attachment system so that you don't lose the whole window. Randy, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I do. As Lisa mentioned, it's a good idea to have it attached, which is attaching the filmed glass to the frame itself. During the testing that goes on with those types of products and in those situations, it goes through cyclic wind load testing, positive and negative pressure after it's been broken. And then on top of that, once it's gone through the cyclic wind load testing, it goes through a water infiltration test. And you have to pass all of those to show that you've done something with your product. So while a notice of acceptance isn't going to be found, a NOAA, on retrofit solutions unless it's on a specific size window, specific manufactured window, and you're not going to see a notice of acceptance unless it's on a particular window system that has gone through the entire process. But as an effective means to apply something that's going to help give protection, absolutely.
There's another question. Could you please clarify the thickness of the films? Somebody had heard a speaker note available. Uh, Thicknesses in regard to 4 millimeters to the 20 millimeter range. I believe 4 millimeters. Is the 4 millimeter equal to the 4/1000th of an inch?
Yeah, that was a just slip, I think. It's 4 mil, which is 4 thousandths of an inch, up to 14 or 15 um, thousandths of an inch as well.
Thank you for clarifying. Can a window film be used for overhead glazing in lieu of laminated glass?
It would depend on the situation, certainly. Um, it can be used to hold glass in place, but of course, you would need to have a structural silicone around the perimeter to hold it in place. It's not going to be as effective as laminated glass can be in overhead glazing situations. In most new construction, if it is overhead glazing, it's going to be specified as laminated glass. You might run across older systems that do not have laminated glass. And in situations like that, just to increase the safety, it could be used. And certainly it could also be used for spall effect if something were to come dislodged. Lisa, what would you add to that?
I think if the question is, did I specify laminated glass in my skylights and they delivered something else, I don't know of any window film manufacturer that would have the type of testing and the labeling that it would take. We discussed doing that with annealed glass where you got it annealed in instead of tempered accidentally. I am not aware that you could accidentally get the wrong glass in a skylight and then put film on it and get it to pass in an inspection as a replacement. Randy, have you ever heard of that?
I have not. That's why I
No.
was like, it would help, but it's not going to do what laminated glass does.
Yeah.
In retrofit applications, can a film be added to satisfy the tempered code requirements surrounding locations such as stairs and wet locations?
If it's annealed glass, yes, we can meet certain criteria. It is, however, going to be up to the local code official to accept it. Some will, some may not. But yes, you can upgrade any annealed glass to meet whatever impact standard it happens to be, whether it's a 100 foot-pound test or 400 foot-pound test. So the answer is yes. However, with the caveat that the local inspector is going to have to accept it. Lisa, would you
Yeah,
say?
I would add one other caveat. Most manufacturers are going to test glass types that would standardly be found. So maybe 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch. You're not going to find a window film manufacturer that tested 1/2 inch glass, and which may be true on a stair or a railing or something like that, that the glass is thicker and you didn't get the glass that you wanted. So again, as with all sorts of things, you need to ask, you need to know what glass you got, and then ask whether anybody has the testing that would certify that it would be a replacement or a substitution.
Great. If films are to be retrofit onto windows with simulated muntins, what would be the procedure of installation?
So is that a faux mullion? Is that what we're talking about here?
I think this is a typo. Yeah, I would
think
assume
so.
that they're talking about mullions.
So the entire piece of glass goes across, but then it's covered up with a fake partition, basically, that's on the surface of the glass is my interpretation of that. Does that sound right, Lisa?
That would be what I thought too. If it was internal mullion to the air gap, then you really don't have any problem. Or as you were going to say, I suspect you just take out the false mullion and install it and put it back.
Yeah, if it's on the surface of the glass that you can touch, just remove it, install the film, and place it back on. If it's the frames that are within the dual pane window, the IG unit, that you can't touch, but they're in the middle, it's not going to bother anything. You just put the film on in the normal way.
Great. Do window film applicators provide warranty against delamination?
Typically, the warranty will come from the manufacturer, and that warranty covers cracking, peeling, demetallizing, and delaminating. It doesn't include, accidental gouging or scratching or anything like that. And it doesn't include the actual installation quality, but it does include the product. And that comes from the manufacturer through the installation company that's providing the service.
What is the average life expectancy of some of these films?
If we're looking at solar control window films, it can be residential, it could be lifetime for however long that customer owns their home. For commercial buildings, it can be up to 15 years, depending on the type of film that's being used. So you have fairly long warranties, and there are products that will last beyond that. But the typical warranties residential would be a lifetime for the original owner, non-transferable. The commercial application up to 15 years. And there are some that would be less than that, but typically that's what you'll run into in the field.
Can you briefly discuss anti-bird strike film?
Lisa, do you want to, or you want to?
Sure. So bird strike films or glazing comes in kind of two different categories. What you're trying to do, as I'm sure this person who asked this, what you're trying to do is prevent the bird from thinking that your window is an open space in the air. So they see the reflection of the sky, they think it is sky, and they fly into it. Couple different ways to deal with that, but what most often I'm seeing is the use of really small dots spaced close enough so that the bird will still not try and fly between the dots. That can be done in a couple different ways of surface applied film. You're going to have to see what kind of glass you have matters, because putting it on the inside of dual pane glass, for example, may make it hard for the bird to see that. There are a few things birds see in the ultraviolet. So there are a few things that are out there where the bird will see something that humans can't see. But those tend to be more expensive, harder to make in a format that will work on lots of different glass types. And so the most prevalent is the kind that has small dots that makes the bird think that it is not an opening in the sky.
And one thing to bear in mind is that even though these are bird strike films and they're designed to keep birds safer, that doesn't mean that all birds are created equal. And some of them will actually fly into it even though that's there. So there is a minimum requirement for passage of when they're doing this kind of testing. It will not completely eliminate bird strikes, but it will significantly reduce what can happen.
Has ASTM E1996 testing been done with filmed glass on hurricane framing systems?
Isn't 1996 a part of that overall windborne debris testing standard, Lisa?
It is. I think maybe the basis of the question is, have people done testing where they're using hurricane type frames? that is going to be a manufacturing specific question as to who has done that and who hasn't. Hurricane testing is very expensive. And as Randy said, you have to do it on every kind of window and frame that might be out there. And so it's difficult to say what has all been done. Certainly, I'm sure some of the manufacturers have tested specifically frames. What you're trying to kind of maximize with both the attachment system and the framing is keeping the glass in the frame. So not only do you have to worry about when the glass breaks, having the film hold the glass together, but keeping the film in the frame when you are going through this positive and negative wind cycling is challenging. So yes, the frame really matters.
I would have to say that most of the manufacturers that I'm aware of, the testing that they have done have been in aluminum storefront type Conair frames. Certainly others have been tested as well, but typically that would be the most common.
Great. Okay.
Do you have any more questions, Dan?
Yeah, sorry. I'm looking
That's
through
okay.
them now.
No worries.
Just trying to figure out the best one to ask.
Exactly. There's so many good ones. Sorry. I will have that question momentarily. Is there a film that provides both security and solar benefit?
Yes, there absolutely is. There are films that come in various thicknesses that have solar control properties on top of it. And there's also an option out there because not every manufacturer is going to make every one of their safety and security films in every one of their solar control film types. So there are also films out there called modular films, which allow you to take a safety film and apply a solar control film or a decorative film on top of it. And you'll be able to kind of create your own, so to speak. But yes, there are plenty of solutions out there using both scenarios, solar and safety.
What do architects or specifiers need to consider about property to specify a window film to a client?
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
Let's skip that one. Once I specify a window film, what is the next step for purchasing, and how do I obtain information on sellers?
Well,
Well, that would
typically,
be, yeah, go ahead, Randy. I'll let you take that one. Go ahead.
So typically, if you're working on a project, you might come to Doug or myself or somebody and, express your interest. We'd ask you what it is you want to accomplish. You get to the process of, okay, this is something we want to do. And then we can help you. Any manufacturer can help you find installers in your area that would be qualified to do the job and can give you competitive bids on installing that product. And then it would be a matter of setting it up, understanding the scope as you go forward and that kind of thing. But all the manufacturers out there can work with you on finding an installer and helping you get that project going.
Yeah,
Great.
one of the questions that came up was on design or things to consider. And I think that's where, a lot of these projects are so different and the applications are different and the types of glass are different. And that's where reaching out to your manufacturer to really run through what is the design intent and what the designer is trying to accomplish by using a window film. And then I think that would help guide that conversation to sort of figure out which window film is going to be the best for that particular situation.
Yeah, if I can make a plug here for the International Window Film Association, all of the members of that have agreed to guidelines around how you behave and performance and marketing guidelines and truth in advertising. And so if you're looking for a manufacturer, I would suggest you go to iwfa.com and click on find a manufacturer, and then you can start there.
Great. If our state funding for school security improvements are no longer available, does Avery Dennison know of any offers or types of grants?
Go ahead, Randy.
Okay. I was going to say that in some cases, local municipalities will have some kind of a incentivized program to do things. It could be through the electric cooperation, co-ops, or the electric companies might be offering some kind of a rebate or something on solar control, and you could do a solar control safety security version of a product. Those kinds of things are available. Those would primarily be the main sources. Lisa, are you aware through the IWFA of any other types of situations?
I'm not. I would say it's very useful to really take a risk assessment of your local school, house of worship, whatever you're looking for, and say, what's the most likely areas, instead of trying to take a giant bite out of the elephant, just take a small bite out of the elephant and go, where's the most likely place that someone is going to try and break in? I would also strongly suggest, especially when you're talking about school safety, that you're talking about layering, where you're looking at, how do I slow people down at the street? How do I slow them down in the parking lot? How do I slow them down getting into the building? How fast can I respond? What do I, having a plan that has layers of security. And again, this is something that window film could help with, is how do I slow people down so I can take other measures? But I am not aware of other funds, federal funds, for example, that are available currently.
We have time for one more question. How do Avery Dennison security window films compare to other manufacturers on the market? For instance, 3M, Lumar, or Matico. How does Avery Dennison compare?
Well, I don't know if I should answer that or a neutral party should. I will say that we all have excellent products. I will say that if they are all installed the way that they're supposed to be installed, in accordance with what they're trying to accomplish, you won't go wrong with any one manufacturer's particular window film. The differences are more in manufacturing than they are in the capabilities of what they can do. So as an example, you might have one manufacturer that says, I do things this way, another manufacturer that says, I tweak it and do it a little bit this way, but they're both going to pass the same test and they're both going to fail the same tests. So at the end of the day, they all have quality products. You won't go wrong taking a look at any of them. And the only thing that kind of differentiates the companies is sometimes the size of the company. Some are Fortune 500 companies, some are not Fortune 500 companies. And as long as the company's strong and they've been around for a long time, you shouldn't have any concerns that you're going to get an inferior product.
Great. Well, that
That's
brings us
about as
to
neutral as I can be.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for today. I'm just going to give some closing words. Thank you all so much for attending the live webinar, Demystifying Security Solutions in Architecture, Building and Design Projects, a CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper. This presentation was sponsored by Avery Dennison. This webinar is recorded and can be easily replayed using the same registration link. Please allow 7 business days to process certificates of participation and AIA credit reporting for this presentation. A big thank you again to our presenters Doug Phelps, Randy Garcia, and Lisa Winkler, and to Avery Dennison for sponsoring this webinar. We hope to see you all again at a future event. Have a great day.
If there are any other questions that we did not answer, please send them. We'll answer them. Doug, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Will we get other questions at all or no?
We might afterward. They might email them to us, or I don't know if they're giving out contact information. I'd have to look. I have to check into that.
Because even if they just wanted to send us a list of questions that we could
Right.
attack, and then they can provide them to whoever they need to provide them for. I understand that doctor confidentiality stuff.
I'll ask Amanda on that.